Now we are starting two parallel sessions. One started on -1 floor and one is starting here right now. And this particular session will be focused on senior policy, and we will listen to conclusions and recommendations from series of expert workshops. I would like to invite Ilona Zakowicz, Senior Policy Thematic Leader, to the stage. She is Manager of Social Affairs from Care and Concerned Foundation from Wrocław, and she will present the rest of the group and also present the results of the workshops. Ilona, the floor is yours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to be here today with you. This is very interesting places where we are here, and I'm very happy that I'm here with excellent group, senior policy group, with Agnieszka Cieśla, Łukasz Jurek. It was a great time to participate with excellent group with the DiverCITY initiative. It's a great honor to work with such a great expert, Maria, Łukasz, Hilde and Agnieszka. During the workshop and below the workshop, we have an occasion to discuss about many problems in senior policy. We exchange the knowledge about the aging society and have an occasion to talk about local senior policy in our country. So in our team, in senior policy team, we have Mrs. Agnieszka Cieśla, Mr. Łukasz Jurek, Mrs. Maria Christian-Dottir, and Mrs. Hilde Nilsten-Tokilsten. During the conference summarizing the DiverCITY4 initiative, we want to present solutions and good practice in the field of activation of elderly people. We will focus on the two topics. We will focus on the senior as workers and seniors as volunteers. In our presentation, we have a conclusion about two parts, two topics. We think that it's very important if we think about the senior policy. Part 1, labor force, participation of elderly in Iceland, Norway and Poland. Mr. Łukasz Jurek explained why we think that it's very important if we think about modern senior policy, modern local senior policy. Part 2, the second part of our presentation, will be focused on the senior volunteering. Ms. Agnieszka Cieśla explained why we think that it's one of the most important part of activation in Poland and other countries. People above 60 have a lot of knowledge and skills. We believe that it's one of the most important part of activation. That's why we would like to show you a good practice from other countries, from Iceland and Norway. So let's start. We will start with the first part. Mr. Łukasz Jurek, the labor force, participation of elderly people.
All right. So, hello everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start with a statement that we live in very interesting times. Today, the world needs to face with many new global issues, and one of them is demographic change. This change is so radical that we used to say about demographic revolution. What does it mean? I prepared a short animation to show you how, this is the case of Poland, how population pyramid is changing over 1 century, since the middle of the 20th century till the middle of the 21st century. And please take a look. In the middle of the 20th century, this pyramid had a shape like a traditional pyramid, but it is changing very fast because of two forces. First of all, a decrease in fertility. So there is less and less children, so this pyramid is shrinking in the bottom. And the second force is lengthening the life expectancy. So more and more people can reach old age, so this pyramid is expanding at the top. So as you can see, the pyramid turns, we can say, turns upside down and takes such ultra regressive shape. Population projection show that in the middle of the 21st century, Polish population will be the oldest in the European Union. The share of people aged 65 plus will be more than 35%. So we can say that every third Pole will be old. And it is, I have to admit, very good information. Yeah, it is very good news because I would say it is a great success of our civilization. It means that we live in a safe environment, we provide healthy lifestyle, we've got an access to efficient healthcare system, and so on and so on. Unfortunately, this great success is also a great challenge to economy, to society. We need to rethink many things, and we need to create the whole social system under this new demographic reality. There are many problems, plenty of problems. For example, first of all, what about the stability of pension system? What about the healthcare system? What about the long-term care system? And also, what about the labor market? And this is a problem that we will focus in this presentation, because with this demographic change, labor force is shrinking and aging. So first of all, the total amount of workers is decreasing, and in the second hand, the share of older workers in this total amount is increasing. So the labor force is smaller and older. So we can say that in this situation, it is absolutely necessary to use the professional potential of old people. We need to seek ways to extend their working life and to improve the employability of older people. Unfortunately, we've got a great, huge problem with this in Poland. Please take a look. This is results of the study that was recently conducted by Ipsos, and one of the questions was about the age threshold to be physically and mentally capable to work. Yeah, so how do you think, how long can you work, till what age? And you can see that the global average is 60 years, but with great big differences between particular countries, and the lowest level is in Poland. The statistical poll claim that he or she will be able to work only till the age of 44. And that reflects to the, let's say, hard data. The labor force participated rate among older people is in Poland, one of the lowest in European Union. I don't want to talk about statistics, but it is a very complex issue. I'm aware of that there are many forces that push workers, older workers, out from the labor market, such as health problems, such as discrimination, ageism, outdated skills, and so on and so on. There are also many pull factors that pull older workers into early retirement, such as financial incentives or family obligations, and so on and so on. But I'm sure that this situation must change in the nearest future. Public authorities, social actors must take some radical steps in this direction. Of course, it is the best to learn from those who have already dealt with that problem successfully. And fortunately, the highest employment rate of older people is in Scandinavia. First of all, in Iceland, in Sweden, in Norway. So we can follow these examples, especially that some of them are quite easy, can be quite easily implemented in Poland. But of course, this is a general effort of some initiatives that are undertaken both in the central, the government level, and also in local level. I would like to analyze the example of Norway, because it is very, very interesting. The general framework in Norway is called Inclusive Workplace Agreement. What is it? It is a tripartite agreement between the government and the key social actors, and its goal is to create more inclusive labor market and to reduce outcome of older workers from labor market into the early retirement. What is the most interesting is that this agreement is implemented at the level of company, the enterprise. It was agreed that the workplace is the best arena where the progress should and could be made. So, Jenna, what is the idea? The idea of this project is that companies, private enterprises, sign agreement with government, so with Norway Labor and Welfare Administration, and in this agreement they declare to fulfill common goals in exchange for support. So they declare that they will do something, but they will receive also a support. What support? Two things. They can get both professional advice and money. So they can also be granted with cash. To receive this support, they need to develop, let's say, internal senior policy, or more precisely, they need to work out and implement some solutions that support older workers in their company. This project wouldn't be effective with two special institutions. One operates in the government level and one operates in the local level. So the first one is the Center for Senior Policy. This is a public institution that operates in the central level. It was established in 1969. Initially, it was to prepare older workers to retirement, but recently the main goal was changed, and now it is this institution makes some support for older workers in the labor market. And the second institution that is the most interesting for us are called Inclusive Workplace Support Centers. They are quite new. There are 19 of them, one in each region, and they operate locally. They employ over 450 professional advisors that cooperate with human resources managers in companies. And in our opinion, those centers, their importance are crucial in the whole system because they, as I said, operate locally and they provide substantial support for companies. They teach companies how to create age-friendly workplaces. They show many solutions. They show many tools how company can help, can support their elderly or old workers to retain them. So, concluding my part of presentation, I would like to say about the main assumption of this project. And this main assumption is prevention. Yeah? It was agreed that successful solving of work-related problems decrease with time. So intervention needs to be taken as soon as it is only possible. But unfortunately, employers often may not be aware of the problem. And employees, on the other hand, may not always be willing to talk about their problems until it will be the end, and in such situation, early retirement would be the only solution. And in this situation, you can see that external supervision, external guidance are very, very important because they show another solutions. They can solve a problem sometimes even before this problem will occur. Thank you for your attention. I will finish my part.
Łukasz, thank you for your part of presentation. And now the second part, senior volunteering as a form of activity. Mrs. Agnieszka Cieśla.
Thank you very much. As you may be aware, Wrocław is an age-friendly city. It belongs to the network formed by the WHO in 2010. Already there are over 900 cities worldwide belonging to this network. And the aim of this network is to exchange experiences, practices, which are helping the cities to become more age-friendly, more adjusted to the older residents. The cities, the age-friendly cities concept is formed by 8 domains, which are grouped into 3 parts, and one of them is the social environment. As you can see it on the marked as a green color, and you can see there is civic management, civic empowerment, and social participation, social inclusion. So the voluntary activities, participation of older residents is being largely taken into account in this concept and by the international institutions. When did it start? Well, the concept, the age-friendly city concept is based on the idea of active aging. It is a very important concept. I think it's worth noting here. It was formed in 2002 during the conference Madrid International Plan on Action on Aging, and it was noticed at that time that older people must be somehow encouraged to be active also in their older days, in the older by this active aging, it is not merely understood the labor activity or the physical activity, but active refers to continuing participation in social, economic, cultural, spiritual, and civic affairs. So that the older persons, despite their, let's say, let's assume the disabilities or some diseases, they still remain active and they contribute to the society. The WHO defined the active aging as the process of optimizing opportunities for health, participation, and security in order to enhance quality of life as people age. So it doesn't merely refer to the age 60 plus. We actively age throughout our lives, but not only, as I said, we're concentrating on work, on physical activity, but as involving ourselves in several different things. There is also a very interesting index called Active Aging Index, where the active aging is being measured throughout the European countries. It is a tool to measure the untapped potential of older people for active and healthy aging across the European countries. It measures the level to which older people live independent lives, participate in paid employment and social activities, and their capacity to age actively. It is composed of 22 indicators, which are grouped into 4 parts. And I would like to focus on the pink color, the participation in the society. And you can see as a first indicator, voluntary action. Unfortunately, Poland, as well as the other Central Eastern European countries, have very low scores in this area. You can see Poland on the 7th position from the bottom on this graph. On the left side, you see the change between 2008-2016, whether this social participation has improved or not. Actually, at that time, the situation in Poland did not change much. This is the left-hand side graph. But on the right-hand side, you can see a more detailed information because there is this gender difference. So the yellow color means women, blue color refers to men. And we can see that the situation referring to women has largely improved. So women in these time frames became more active in this social participation dimension, whereas men's activity decreased and largely, and only Lithuania had a larger decrease in the area of social participation. So I think that's a very disturbing information for me, and it means that we should focus on the men's activation, particularly in the voluntary and social participation actions. We have generally a problem with volunteering among all Polish older residents. They are largely reluctant to do such actions. Surveys show that actually young people in Poland involve much more into volunteering than the seniors. They are somehow more encouraged. But on the other hand, also there are some historical and sociological reasons for that. We must remember that today's seniors in Poland, in their youth, they were also forced to do some, let's say, voluntary actions, so-called in the social acts, like they had to plant the trees or something like that under the socialist period. So they might be reluctant to repeat that today, and this might be the reason why they are not so much involving into such actions, while in the West, the ratio, the difference between the seniors and young voluntary actions is, the seniors much more involved into voluntary actions than the young in the Western Europe. However, we must remember that Poland has also big and undiscovered potential because, as Łukasz said, we have shorter than elsewhere working age. So women got into retirement age when they are 60 and men 65 plus, while in the West it's like 67 years. So that's much. We have much more years here to use from. We learned that in Iceland and Norway there are a lot of well-established volunteer centers. We also, what I found quite interesting, we learned that there is a difference between volunteering and professional activities. Volunteering, what Hilde told us, is about bringing joy to somebody, is about reading somebody a book, about taking him for a walk, while it's not linked with doing professional tasks like caring or changing diapers or things that are not that pleasant and also require special knowledge. So we must also be aware of this differentiation between voluntary actions and those professional ones. What was stressed also is that the growing number of seniors in Europe will cause the growth in necessity of using the volunteering in the future. And what I also think it's very important, research shows that people who volunteer enjoy better mental and physical health than those who do not do that. I found a very interesting concept of caring communities that are developing both Iceland and Norway and other Western European countries. The example for that is the so-called Heila Vinur in Iceland, in northern Iceland. And the goal is to change of such caring communities, the goal is to change the individualistic approach into a collective system of mutual support, which in turn will reduce the need for external care. The key members of caring communities are people at an early retirement age, which, thanks to a large amount of free time and sufficiently good health, can be involved into volunteering. What they can do, they can provide support through social activities to people in need, and thus they contribute to establishing a strong interpersonal relationships and creating the local bonds. So the caring communities rely on intergenerational support, strengthen individual support in public space through participation, and sensitize for others' needs through raising the public awareness. I think that we have also great potential for the development of caring communities in Poland because we have, due to the demographic structure that we have a lot of so-called young olds. These are the people that in their 60s up to 70 years old, and these people tend to have still good health, and they could be involved into such actions of creating the caring communities. it's also the scale of such caring community is also worth mentioning. These are not big communities of several thousand people, several 100,000 people, but of like 5,000 up to 5,000 persons. So these links are being strong. People know each other, and they more eagerly help one another. Lastly, I would like to mention also a very interesting action taking place in Norway. It's the quality reform for older persons live your whole life, and it was introduced in 2019, so just 1 year ago. The Ministry of Health and Care Services in Norway gathered good practices across the country from different communes, and they released kind of a handbook where they recommend these selected practices to be scaled, to be repeated in the other areas. One of them is like 1 hour of activity per day for an older person based on his or her interests and wishes. Another is for health and care services to establish a community contact person to mobilize volunteer efforts. So this is a very nice, I think, concept that could be also implemented here in Poland, where we could gather from across different communes good practices and try to make them more popular and scalable. I would like to say that the senior policy, or also called the aging policy, but it does not refer only to the older persons. We all age. Even now, we are getting older and older. So the aging policy is kind of an umbrella that covers the whole other 3 subjects under discussion here, so that is environment, accessibility, and housing. We must make the environment, housing more accessible, because if we do not do that, the people will not be, we and older persons will not be activated enough, will not be able to get involved into the living environment, into creating their the AgeFriendly city, or they will not be able to get into volunteer actions or labor market, which will help them more healthy and happy in the end. I'm also very thankful for our experts, Maria and Hilda, who shared with us their great expertise, and we learned a lot from them. I found our discussions very fruitful and inspiring. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Now, if you have any question, it's the best occasion to ask our expert. It's the best occasion to discuss. So, if you have any question, please ask. Do we have any question from internet? Okay, please. We answered the question in Polish language.
Może po polsku, tak?
Yes, I will ask the question in Polish. Wojciech Duda, the Wrocław Council for Public Utility. So what is your perspective of NGOs? What is your perspective of their role as far as the silver policy or senior policy is concerning making the most of NGOs and how to involve them as fully fledged organizations capable of implementing various actions addressing seniors in Wrocław, for instance? there's a big number of very interesting examples to talk about, but I would like to ask you about your research, and as you were collecting your data, you were doing your surveys. Just please tell me a couple of words about how they do it abroad, and maybe share some findings for the Wrocław-based NGOs, trying to highlight the ways to do it, trying to make the most of their experiences. I think what is incredibly important is actually the collaboration between NGOs and public institutions, because without the support of public institutions such as the city council, for instance, or the city office, their efforts, irrespective of how big they are, may not actually obtain the effect they might have with the support. As far as I'm concerned, in Iceland and Norway, the non-governmental organizations receive significant support from various kinds of state institutions, public institutions. As I'm saying, they can actually count on substantial support. But it's also undeniable that the very NGOs can contribute to the development of both awareness, and through the development of awareness, the molding of the silver economy, and their role, their importance. It goes without saying. Let me just add that while we were surveying these problems and discussing with our counterparties from Norway and Iceland, we found out that when implementing certain specific actions addressing seniors, they're actually implemented by the NGOs. So it is the state implementing those actions, but via NGOs. And I'm glad to say that it also takes place in Wrocław. So in other words, this is the delegation of certain empowerments to NGOs that can greatly manage when implementing projects in favor of improvement of well-being and quality of life of seniors. Both in cities and outside of cities, I believe that the significance of NGOs will only grow. Any other questions? Hello, good afternoon. I'm Vice Mayor of the town of Minsk Mazowiecki. Thank you for the statements. My question is about volunteering, senior volunteering. I work a lot with young people, and I know the subject of volunteering among young people quite well. Unfortunately, we're not the most altruistic society in Poland, so we have to resort to various measures and trying to encourage people to become volunteers. Among young people, it's very popular among them to address matters of the personal development, professional development, telling them, oh, do become involved in volunteering because you will gain some competencies that can then translate into your increased competence in the labor market. So do you know any other good practices? Have you found some measures, some ways of encouraging seniors to become involved in volunteering, especially considering what has already been said, the fact that there is this public activity, this public forced volunteering in their head, something that comes from the past times of society and communism, which they are actually reluctant to become involved. As far as what we've heard from our experts and counterparts from Norway and Iceland, the starting point, the baseline is slightly different. Norway, as far as I'm concerned, the number one thing as far as the volunteering is completely different. Volunteering is absolutely popular. So you don't virtually have to, you don't need to encourage people to become volunteers. It simply happens. In Poland, senior volunteering starts being noticed, starts being actually perceived. We are obviously building those experiences. Are there any good practices? I'm sure there are, and they come in numbers. Also from Poland, as far as the ways of motivating people to volunteering, I wouldn't say there is a golden medium, a perfect remedy to this problem. Building volunteering, and that's something that should provide the grounds for this activity, is something that should be worth our while. And what is also important is that building the awareness of pensioners is also important, because people retiring quite often feel excluded from the society, and quite often is actually It depends on their conscious decision. But empowering seniors, giving them mutual trust or expressing mutual trust or showing them that they can be socially active is one of the trends and one of the orientations for our activities. If I was to mention certain specific projects, let me just bring initiative implemented by the Yellow Umbrella initiative, the involvement of seniors in, for instance, the Wrocław-based civic life, involving seniors in the implementation of various projects, or simply embarking on certain specific journeys with the seniors and trying to make them engaged in actions that they would consider important from the seniors' perspective, on one hand. On the other hand, addressing actions, enabling activity, and simply making it possible for them to become involved. I wouldn't say that there is a single one good way to do it. I think we are still on the way to find such a golden remedy. Any other questions? Like employment, for instance. To have a question to Łukasz, for instance, because it is undoubtedly a very important problem. In Poland, we are still at the stage where we are building structures that enable us to manage aging, for instance. If there are no other questions, I would like to thank you very much for your kind attention. If you have any questions, just grab us at the foyer and ask your questions. Thank you, dear experts. I'd like to say many thanks to the experts that were addressing senior policy. We were hosting Ilona Zakowicz, Agnieszka Cieśla, and Łukasz Jurek, PhD. And now, I would like to invite you to, this time, a longer break, 45 minutes for lunch. To all of you who are with us online, I would like to invite you to a virtual walk around the Centennial Hall. So we are meeting again we are meeting at 2 p.m. and we are about to witness further two workshops, parallel workshops. One addressing housing policy, that's on level -1, and environment. The environment panel will take place here at a multi-functional hall. See you at 2.